Hello, and welcome to Sarcastic Spinster, where I analyze the behavior of the minions of the Pussy Hat Goddess so that we can better understand who she is. Because love her or hate her, we need to understand her. So, this is volume 2 of the collective narcissism of minions. And hold on to your knickers, ladies, because I'm going to go after Oprah, the Women's March, and the absurdity of manspreading. So, what I'm doing in these volumes is going through the bullet points listed as the symptoms of narcissistic behavioral disorder and how they react to criticism as listed on the Mayo Clinic website. So, today's bullet points are kind of fun. So, under symptoms, we have expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements that warrant it, and exaggerate achievements and talents. And this is where I'm going to go after Oprah and the Women's March. And before you start screaming about how Oprah has achieved a lot and deserves what she has achieved, I am talking specifically in this case about her Me Too speech that she gave when she received her, what was it, like a Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that. And how all of the minions came out. Oh, Oprah. Oh, that was so brave. Oh, that was so wonderful. Oh, how brave and noble of you to take such a risk and use a Lifetime Achievement Award to speak out against such injustice. Horseshit. What would have really been brave? Okay. Yeah, you know. What would have really been brave is if Oprah would have done that when she was at the height of her career and nobody else was talking about it. Did she do that then? No. No, she didn't. There's actually all kinds of pictures of her with Harvey Weinstein, smiling, happy, didn't care that, he was sexually assaulting women, didn't care that he was forcing women to sleep with him to get their movies made, didn't care. Didn't care. He was a powerful man. Yeah, he was doing horrible stuff, but I need to get where I want to go, and so I just have to put up with it. Instead, what she did is she waited until other people had spoken out and stood up and supported a movement that people already supported. There was no risk involved in that. None. Zero. What did she risk with that statement? Now, who is brave is Rose McGowan, because she was talking about it when nobody else would. And nobody listened to her. Everybody wanted her to just shut up. And just from what I can observe, that appears to have made her a little bit bitter. I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that's just kind of what I'm seeing. But I could understand if it could, if it did, that she was talking about it, talking about it, talking about it. Nobody cared until, oh, hey, you know what? We can use the Me Too movement now as a political tool. And then all of a sudden people cared. And then men were getting Me Too'd for speaking harshly to their girlfriend during a breakup. I mean, come on. So that was an achievement that was blown all out of proportion. That achievement was no achievement at all. That what Oprah did with her speech was nothing. It was nothing. Absolutely meaningless. Now, let's talk about the Women's March. So, here are women taken to the streets in pink pussy hats and turning themselves into big prosthetic vaginas. To do what? To do what? I still don't understand the purpose of it. I really don't. Oh, for women's rights. Okay. So, just so I understand this, because I've had a problem with this ever since it happened about 2 years ago. We as women have been fighting pretty much our whole existence to be seen as something more than our reproductive system and our vaginas. I mean, the C word is so offensive, at least in the United States. It is so offensive because by using it, you are reducing a woman to nothing more than a tool for sex. That's all she's good for. That's all she is. That is what we have been fighting. That's what feminism was all about. And so women took to the streets, turning themselves into nothing but their sex organ and talking about reproduction. So it was basically what I got out of the whole women's movement was, as a woman, I have the right to have sex without consequences. Really, what did that achieve? What did that really achieve? And they think it was this big, huge achievement. Oh, it was historic. Oh, look at how many of us there are willing to reduce ourselves to our reproductive systems. Yay. But that's a huge accomplishment. And these are women who are protesting because their candidate lost. And who was their candidate? Hillary Clinton. So they are protesting the loss of what would have been to them a huge accomplishment of electing the country's first female president. And I have to say that as a woman, I am so glad that Hillary is not the first female president. As a woman, it offended me to think that the first female president would be somebody who got there riding the coattails of her husband. I would prefer it be a woman who got there based on her own achievements. And I'm sure that there are people out there of the, 10 to 15 of you that may watch this video saying, well, Hillary had achievements. She was a senator and she was a secretary of state and she was a presidential candidate twice. And all of that is true. All of that is true. But how did she get to be those things? She got to be those things by being married to Bill Clinton. So I am old enough to remember the Clintons in the White House. I'm old enough to remember the Bill Clinton first presidential campaign. I am old enough to remember all of the women coming forward to accuse Bill Clinton of sexual assault. I am old enough to remember Juanita Broderick and her very, very, very credible claims of rape by Bill Clinton. I am old enough to remember Paula Jones. I'm old enough to remember Bill Clinton lying under oath about Paula Jones. I'm old enough to remember Monica Lewinsky. I am old enough to remember Hillary Clinton referring to all of these women as the parade of bimbos. So, didn't really think that women should be believed then. So, Hillary would bill herself as, and bill herself as, I mean, label herself. She would go out there and campaign and say, vote for my husband and you get me too. Like that was supposed to be meaningful to us. So, talk about narcissism there. It was like the country should be so glad that we would have her as our first lady. Yeah, I also remember something about Hillary took over education while Bill was governor of Arkansas, and she managed to bring them from 50th out of the 50 states all the way up to 49th. Major achievement. Yay. Let's put her in charge of revamping our healthcare. That sounds like a good plan. But what happened then is after Bill and Hillary left office under really interesting circumstances, that was a fun exit to watch. Then she ran for the Senate. And she ran for the Senate in New York, where she had never lived, representing people she had never met. Now, I also happen to have lived in New York at that time. Now, do you honestly believe that the people of New York would have elected a senator that wasn't from their state and who they didn't know, unless it was somebody who they already knew? And they knew her because she had been the first lady, because she had been married to Bill. So everything else comes from that. She got her very first political position based on her relationship to her husband. I'm sorry, but I did not want the first female president of the United States to be somebody who got there on the coattails of a man. No. I mean, outside of the fact that I just openly despise the woman for who she is, and she's just corrupt, who will take any position she needs to take in order to get a vote to keep power. Just bleh. I also really, really rejected the idea that the very first ever in history first gentleman of the United States would be a rapist and a sexual predator. I mean, even as recently as Aretha Franklin's funeral, there's the video of him sitting behind Ariana Grande, just being full on, just creeper. Just that, checking out her ass. Yeah, that's who I want as the very first gentleman in United States history. No, thank you. But that was the accomplishment they were going for, was to put Bill and Hillary back in the White House. And that was going to be something. That was going to be something huge. That was going to be something big. That was going to be something real. That was going to be something disgusting. So, the Women's March, in order to bring attention to the plight of women, was going to elect a woman who used a man to get her position, bringing along a man who is a serial sexual abuser of women. And to protest that loss, reduced themselves and reduced women to the very image we've been attempting to escape from forever. And they're proud. They're proud of that. That's why I'm not a minion. That's why I don't like the pussy hat goddess. I am more than my reproductive organs. I am more than my sexual choices. I may be the product of the decisions I make, but I make a whole hell of a lot more decisions than who to have sex with. So, on that note, let's move on, shall we? So, under how they react to criticism, have significant interpersonal problems and easily feel slighted. I mean, this is the whole snowflake thing. The easily feel slighted. And the college campuses, the minions on the college campuses, the young minions, the real believers, is really where this is bad. And just the attack on language and telling everybody what pronouns they're allowed to use and what words are, aggressive, and, being called a dude is just, how aggressive that is. And for many of them, they think it's tantamount to assault. If, being called a guy, and I refer to my female friends as guys all the time. Hey, are you guys going to go do this? Are you guys going to go do this? And so what? So what? Do you know what I find offensive? I find it offensive that you believe women are so fragile that we can be damaged by being called a guy or a dude. I find that offensive. So that is the easily slighted and just can't handle it. And one of the other things, manspreading. Can we talk about manspreading? There was a woman going along, and was this in Seattle or somewhere out there on the left coast, I think, and going along on a subway, pouring bleach in the laps of men who were manspreading. And she was doing it whether there was anybody sitting on either side of them or not. So it's not like they're crowding anybody else out. They're just making themselves comfortable. They got the room to spread out. They're taking advantage of it. Here comes this delicate little feminist flower with a bottle of bleach to pour in their lap. Slight overreaction, do you think? And let's talk about manspreading. Why do men sit with their legs apart like that? Because they got a dick and balls. They need to give them some room. So what? So what? Think about women in their boobs, okay? Think about being on a subway and your boobs are taking up extra room, especially if you got some big boobs. They're sticking on out there. And men, they can't touch them. They can't brush against them. God forbid something jostles and a man accidentally hits your boob. Oh, God. So there's got to be this range around them, this level of protection. Your boobs have their own personal space that men have to constantly be aware of and avoid. And yet we're going to give them a hard time for giving their balls a little breathing room. I think that's unreasonable. Now, if it's really crowded on the train and they're all splayed out there, and okay, I could see you getting upset by that, but you know what you do? You say, excuse me, you're crowding into my space. Can you narrow that a little? And if he calls you a bitch, you know, say something right back to him and just move on. But it also strikes me as funny that women will complain about that, and yet they take up a whole seat for their handbag. So we get a little hypocritical. But this feeling of being easily slighted is one of the biggest problems that I have with the minions of the Pussy Hat Goddess. It's just like, okay, you know what? When you make a mountain out of a molehill, if every molehill is a mountain, the real mountains get ignored. You turn the real mountains into molehills. And I got a little problem with that. Why don't we focus on the big stuff? Manspreading. So guys need to give their balls some room. Biological differences we just got to deal with. That's just life, ladies. I am not going to begrudge a man some breathing space for his balls unless it is really, really crowded. And even then, it all depends. All depends. Is he actually encroaching upon somebody else's space? If he's not, let him be. Just like if you're not encroaching on anybody else's space by putting your handbag in the seat next to you, no biggie. But if you're making somebody stand so that your handbag doesn't have to be on the floor, you might be a narcissist. So, just as a recap, the symptoms are: expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements that warrant it. Exaggerate achievements and talents. I think they do that. They are so proud of themselves. They do love to pat themselves on the back. They do love to shout their achievements. And they do love to mock you for not having participated in this wonderful, wonderful endeavor. And as far as how they react to criticism, they have significant interpersonal problems and easily feel slighted. Yes, if you think being called a guy is tantamount to assault, you might be part of the collective narcissism of minions. You just might. Well, that's it for volume 2. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like, comment, and share below. #PussyHatGoddess, and something to think about.